Hello. Hello. It is Thursday, April 19th. I probably shouldn't say that. Maybe I should make these more generic, repurposing all that other stuff. So hello, welcome to Write With Me. Let's start again. Hey, welcome to Write With Me. I am Dawn Z. Manafusco, and I'm a life coach for writers and creatives. I help people get out of writing blocks, write their true stories, figure out how to best formulate and write their stories, how to get through those emotional times when you're writing your true story and things come up. Everything from traumas to hardships and struggles to adventures. So hold on. I've got to fix my... Eric, are you Nicole's brother? I can't remember. So anyway, okay, let's see. I gotta make sure it's on all channels because I promised my writers group that I would post this. We're gonna go over some fun stuff today. Dun 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 dun. How's everyone doing out there? Give me some love. Give me some love. What's happening? Are you writing? Are you procrastinating? Are you loving the sunshine? I'm going to show you some awesome sunshine in a minute. Once I figure this out. Oh, you're just going to have to be patient. It's one of those things. We all have to be patient sometimes. Here we go. So yeah, could you please share this? Share this with people. I'm going to give you the top 10 writing books that I've used. They're like my holy grails. When I get stuck in writing, when I want to keep coaching myself on writing, when I want to remember technique, when I want, like a teacher in a book, which is the bonus about the 21st century, because you can pretty much buy a book, listen to a book, or YouTube it like we are here now. Oh, don't tell me people are going to be working on their lawns. I'm not moving, so hopefully we don't get stuck. Did I do that right? On my timeline. Okay. It's hard. Just bear with me, peeps. Bear with me. Write from your heart. So I have a closed Facebook group called Write from Your Heart, and if you're interested in being a part of it, you can do a search, Write from Your Heart, and I will add you to the group because we do a whole lot of fun stuff in that group, and I think you would really dig it. Sorry. Hold on. Hey, Janice, you're procrastinating. Tell me more about your procrastination. What's getting in your way? What do you think is stopping you from writing? I mean, I know that procrastination, you're saying, is stopping you from writing, but pretend it's not actually the procrastination. That's just sort of what you're labeling it. What maybe is the actual thing that's stopping you? It could actually be overwhelm. It could be you can't find the time. It could be maybe a friend's in town. There's all kinds of reasons that we procrastinate. This is going to be a fun one. I think we're all going to really enjoy how many sounds could possibly come out on the day I moved all my crap upstairs so that we could do a Facebook Live outside. All right, so first I'm going to give you a little tour of how awesome it is up here, which is why I wanted to do this up here. So this is the upstairs of the house that I live in with my beautiful wifey. Yeah, I have a wifey. It's a platonic wifey, but we are wifey and wifey nonetheless. And then this is the deck that overlooks this gorgeous plot of land. I showed you yesterday how we have a creek down there. Oh, maybe you can see the creek over here. We've got the creek. There's a house across the way. Somebody's making a lot of noise out there. and we have this cute little bridge. I love writing in nature. I love being surrounded by nature, and I feel like it adds a whole other dimension to the writing process. Okay, so we're going to go back inside because the light is better. I really hope that the sounds in the background aren't too extreme. Hey Janice, can you help me out and tell me if the sounds in the background are really distracting and if I should go inside, which would kind of suck, but so let's see. Been too busy. Let's put you up here. Create overlay. So Janice says, been too busy the past month. It's a little quieter now, so I'm getting back to writing. Awesome. So you know what? That's where we want to make sure we that's where we want to make sure. I don't know how to get rid of this now. We want to. How does one get rid of this? Oh yeah, there you go. That's when we want to remember that if things are quieter, to take advantage of getting the body and the mind back into writing. So what winds up happening, it's very, very similar. I often use this analogy all the time with my clients, my friends, and myself. Writing is just like working out. I swear you can make the best analogy for this. It's pretty amazing. If you stop writing for a while, it's just harder to get back into it. But once you get back into it, it's a breeze. You know, I stopped lifting weights, and I started again about 5 weeks ago. And at first it was just like, oh my God. And I joined a pump class at 24 Hour Fitness, and I actually had a trainer for a little bit. But once my body got used to it, which was pretty quick, it only took about 2 or 3 weeks. Now, I run to the class. I love it. And my body's changing and I feel good. But writing is the exact same thing. You know, we get busy. Sometimes we have to put it down, and that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. It's just that when you get back into it, you want to make sure that you realize it's going to be a little difficult at first. So here, maybe if I bring this a little closer, I'm really hoping that seriously loud noise in my life isn't as seriously loud in your lives out there. So, okay, so let's get to it. Boom, 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 boom. I brought these books from downstairs from my office. Oh my God. I have so many books, people. I have so many books. I mean, I guess I don't have as many books as I used to because I moved around and I just was like, oh my God, that's a lot of paper. And then what happened is I got rid of books thinking, oh, I'll just, I have a Kindle. So I actually have some books, and this is obsessive. I have some books where I listen to the books. I listen to the books on my Audible account. I have like hundreds of dollars of books for listening to books because I like listening to the books when I'm driving, when I'm working out, when I'm walking my dog. You know, they do say that you should use your car as your classroom. You should always use your car as your classroom, meaning if you can get a book that will teach you something, then you should play it in your car for any of your commute. When I used to commute, when I had a day job temporarily for about 10 months when I was going through a really big depression, it got me out of the house and I had to commute 45 minutes a day. And I learned so much. Like I made sure to not only listen to the books, but then I would buy the softcover, and then occasionally I would even buy the Kindle version for when I was traveling because I like repetition. I really am a fan of repetition. So we're going to talk about that when we talk about the books. So I'm obsessed with books, and I really want you to take this in. Take it in that when you walk the dog, when you're going for a walk yourself, it's kind of hard to work out and listen to a book. I prefer music. However, if I'm in a warm down or if I'm just walking that day, then for sure I'm listening to a book on Audible. I mean, my Audible account is insane. And if I can't sleep at night, like I'll listen to some books. Let's see. I've got all these books that I listen to that I've bought over the years, and they're great because they just stay in there, and then some of them I get on, the paperback because I actually want to go in and I want to integrate the knowledge. So what kind of knowledge am I talking about? I'm not just talking about listening to stories. I love reading a good memoir. I love reading an occasional good novel. I'm more of a true story, self-help, personal development kind of junkie. But when I'm reading books that can help, change my belief systems, to change and help me grow, those are the kind of books you want to listen to over and over again or read a few times to integrate the knowledge. So I often have people say to me things like, oh yeah, I read that book like 10 years ago. So what, who cares? I mean, not who cares, but what is that going to do for you now, 10 years later? Do you realize how many bad habits you have? Do you realize how you just go into automatic? You'll read a book, and here's the thing. You will intellectually understand the book. You will philosophically understand the book, and you may even emotionally feel connected to the book. But if you don't take the teaching of the book and have an experiential learning experience, if you can't experientially understand the book, then the book is really maybe going to last in your brain for a day or two. You maybe will take in, I think it's like 20% of the information. So just because you've read a book does not mean kind of anything. Did you study the book? Did you study the author? Did you take the exercises or the advice, and did you put them into action? So you can teach yourself anything. You can become an expert in whatever you're passionate about, but it's going to take repetition, and it's going to take getting to know the information in the book and having the experiential learning from the book. Okay? So that's really, really important. Now, I'm not making this shit up. I have studied hundreds of case studies for all these overnight successes that took about 20 years. I always say it takes 20 years to be an overnight success, maybe 10. And these people who worked really hard to try to figure out their blocks, their bad habits, their procrastination, their belief systems, and they were really trying their best to move the needle forward in their life. How are they going to make these changes and be the person they want to be? How are they going to do that? How am I going to do that? How am I supposed to be the person and the writer that I want to be when I have so many negative belief systems from, growing up in a harsh environment with parents that just didn't know any better? I mean, they were keeping me safe. They didn't want me to go out and, be an actress or a writer or creative. They wanted me to, get a job at a corporate office in Manhattan and do it that way. And I didn't do it that way. Instead, I hightailed it to Florida and took a bunch of acid and realized that the world was a much, much, much more complex, beautiful place than working in a cubicle in a corporation. And so I started my journey on being a preschool teacher, a poet, and a writer and a teacher. So I had to break free of so many belief systems, and I started studying it. And then I went to coach school, and I got certified as a coach. I worked with at-risk youth, and I was looking at these at-risk youth kids who, were being told that they were nothing. These kids were being told they were a piece of shit. They were being told that they would never make it to anything. Their parents were telling them that. Their teachers were telling them that. Bad teachers. Do not ever tell a teenager that their lives are not going to amount to anything. If they are showing up where they're getting bad grades, if they're showing up as a rebel, if they're showing up as a slacker, there is a deeper thing going on there. And it's your responsibility as an adult, as a parent, and as a teacher to lift those teenagers up, because they are the most powerful sources of energy and creativity if you just tap into that. So I was working with these at-risk youth. I was like, how the hell am I going to change these kids? And it's really just about repetition and mindset and belief systems. So I also taught them, when I would teach them, I would repeat things over and over and over. Turns out there are case studies, hundreds of case studies done, where these entrepreneurs that seemingly have it all great, or they've blown through the roof of, motivation and inspiration. Some of them read one book 50 times. I know for a fact that Bill Harris, who started the Centerpoint Institute, and you can look him up, he's got an amazing coaching program. He's helped hundreds of thousands of people. He was making like $12,000 a year and didn't know how to get, that's the hot tub. Now the hot tub's going off. Didn't know how to put it all together. So he read the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill 50 times in a row. And he implemented all the exercises, and he actually did it. I've read the book 3 times, and I've done it. I've done a lot of the exercises. He's a multimillionaire now, so maybe I should read a little bit more. Anyway, that was the first time I had ever heard of this repetition. Then you look at people like Darren Hardy. Darren Hardy worked with Jim Rohn, who's also Tony Robbins' coach. And these coaches learned through repetition. They read these books 30, 40, 50 times. They integrated the work. They really, really, really wanted to break through their belief systems. So when it comes to writing, we're going to circle this all the way back. Why am I telling you this? To writing and the books. I have had some of these books for 20 years. A lot of them I gave away and then I bought them again. But I use the same books over and over and over. And I teach so that I learn. But here are my, in no particular order, well, maybe there'll be some order, but in no particular order, my first top 10 books that I go back to over and over and over again to get motivation, inspiration, and to go to the books for writing prompts and all kinds of stuff. So you'll see. All right. So we all probably can guess what my number 1 book is based on the Facebook Live. Hold on. I'm going to get the books. And my number 1 all-time favorite book that I have used for years and years and years. I used to have the original, which has this little mirror cover. The War of Art by Steven Pressfield. So this is the bad boy. This is the badass. So if you want to break through any resistance, break through the blocks, and win your inner creative battles. I don't even know how many times I've read this book. I've read it from cover to cover at least once a year. And then I keep it on my desk and I turn to it, I don't know, once a week. I feel resistance every week, even though the reason I look up, by the way, there's a wasp on the screen here. So just making sure it stays over there. Anyway, a couple of wasps. Well, we're going to have to put up a trap or something. Anyway, this is the number 1. So, and I'm going to list this below. The War of Art by Steven Pressfield. Now, I'll read you just a quickie out of this. I have resistance. Oh, no, wait, hold on. Resistance is not out to get you personally. It doesn't know who you are and doesn't care. Okay? It doesn't know who you are and doesn't care. Think about that. Resistance is not out to get you personally. It doesn't know who you are and doesn't care. Resistance is a force of nature. It acts objectively. Though it feels malevolent, resistance in fact operates with the indifference of rain and transits the heavens by the same laws as the stars. When we marshal our forces to combat resistance, we must remember that. So here's the deal with resistance. And if you want to, Janice, tell me a little bit about what I just read. Like resistance and procrastination, they're not to be taken personally. These are just things that show up when you start writing. When you start on the path, the creative path, you're going to have resistance. And it's not personal. It doesn't mean that you suck. It doesn't mean that you're different. You're not different. Everyone goes through resistance. Even the most talented of writers and talented of creators will say that they battle resistance. So this is the number 1 Holy Grail that I go to all the time. Now, there's a chapter in here called Turning Pro. And I'm going to get to that chapter because he made another book out of this book. This kind of genius. Let's see if I can find it. The Professional. So, the professionals and amateurs. So he talks about turning pro. And what does it mean to turn pro? So that is my second all-time Holy Grail books, Turning Pro. And Stephen Pressfield was so awesome. He sent me a case of these books for one of my summits, and I wound up giving them away to various people who dialed in. Now I just have one copy left. But he's super cool. He sent me all these books just to help writers. So Turning Pro comes from a chapter in The War of Art. And someone asked him, could you expound on this Turning Pro thing? So here we go. Aspiring artists defeated by resistance share one trait. They all think like amateurs. They have not yet turned pro. So now what does pro mean? We think, oh, we have to get paid in order to be professional? No. No. That is not the original definition of professional. So all you people out there, when someone says to you, oh, how much money are you making off your writing? Are you a real writer? You give them the finger first. No, you don't really do that. You actually can just wash it off your back and not even worry about it because they don't understand what being a professional actually means. And Janice says here, let's see. She said, it's hard separating yourself from resistance, but it does get easier when you recognize it for what it is. Yes. Excellent. It does get easier. That's the beauty of it when you recognize what resistance is. It's that awareness kind of diffuses it, Okay, so let's go back to this. Artists defeated by resistance share one trait. They all think like amateurs. They have not yet turned pro. The moment an artist turns pro is as epochal as the birth of his first child. With one stroke, everything changes. I can state absolutely that the term of my life can be divided into two parts, before turning pro and after. To be clear, when I say professional, I don't mean doctors and lawyers, those of the professions. I mean the professional as an ideal. The professional in contrast to the amateur. Consider the differences. The amateur plays for fun, okay? Let's get this seriously in your head now, people. The amateur plays for fun. The professional plays for keeps. Okay? To the amateur, the game is his avocation. To the pro, it's his vocation. The amateur plays part-time. The professional plays full-time. The amateur is a weekend warrior. The professional is there 7 days a week. The word amateur comes from the Latin root meaning to love. The conventional interpretation is that the amateur pursues his calling out of love, while the pro does it for money. Not the way I see it. In my view, the amateur does not love the game enough. I'm going to say that again. In my view, the amateur does not love the game enough. If he did, he would not pursue it as a sideline distinct from his real vocation. The professional loves it so much, he dedicates his life to it. He commits full time. That's what I mean when I say turning pro. Resistance hates it when you turn pro. So then he took that section of turning pro, meaning, and it's a great section. Oh my God, this book is so great. I love it. I love it. I love it. He really goes into what does it mean to turn pro? Like, you show up for work. Like, you got a day job, you show up on time. You work. You come home, you go to bed on time, you get up, you do it again. If you want to be a writer that gets eventually paid for it, or you want to finish that book, you need to treat your writing like it's your freaking job. You need to treat it with the respect that it deserves so that you can turn pro. And turning pro is pretty easy. It's just a matter of going to bed early, getting up early, and making sure your shit gets done. Now, if you're a night owl and you want to write at night, that's okay too. So, okay, these two. While we're at it, well, actually, no. The next two, I fell in love with writing in 1992. Well, I fell in love with writing when I was 5. But I fell in love with writing in 19, yeah, because this book had just come out. In 1986, when writing, this is like, I think this is my original book. It's like falling apart. It's called Writing Down the Bones. And this sucker stands the test of time. Natalie Goldberg. I've taught classes with this. I was actually taught In one of my first college classes, it was required reading. And then eventually, after I got my MFA, I would teach with this book. So Writing Down the Bones, Freeing the Writer Within. Her chapters are super short. Ooh, look, pictures of my boyfriend just fell out. I'll have to save those for later. So she's got great names of her chapters. Nervously Sipping Wine. Let's see. That one might not go with today's theme. Syntax. Don't use writing to get love. Listening. She uses a lot of analogies and such with meditation. She's a big meditator. So I love this one. Fighting Tofu. Ha! I might have to do a whole. I might do a write with me just on that chapter, Fighting Tofu. Discipline has always been a cruel word, is how it starts. I always think of it as beating my lazy part into submission, and that never works. The dictator and the resistor continue to fight. I don't want to write. You're going to write. I'll write later. I'm tired. You'll write now. All the while, my notebook remains empty. It's another way that ego has to continue to struggle. And she goes on. I mean, this book is amazing because it really gets you writing. Like she starts to bond with you. And what did she say here? It's hard separating yourself from resistance, but it does. Oh yeah, we already talked about that. It does get easier. She bonds with you. You know what I mean? Like I love her because she bonds with this idea that it's always going to be hard to write. I mean, not always, but you have to get past those growing pains. And not just growing pains, but if you put down writing like I've done over time, sometimes 2-3 years, and have to pick it back up. But it's my life. I love it. And then she gives you some awesome prompts. Like, it's super cool. So, and then she talks about her class and how she teaches. But I'm telling you, short chapters, 2 pages long. She bonds with you. She's adorable. She gives you great prompts. Writing Down the Bones. Seriously, I've had it for 86, 96, 2006, 2016. I've had it for 32 years. Where does the time go? Okay. Next one, no surprise. Her other book, Wild Mind. I used to teach this. Oh, I love it. Living the Writer's Life. It really is just hilarious. Like she nails it sometimes about how, writing isn't always easy. And then she has these try this. There's always a try this in here. So, when you're really feeling like you're stuck, she gives you a little pep talk. But it's really good. Like this one's called Accept Ourselves. I tell students, don't throw out your writing. Keep it in a notebook. High school students especially seem to ball up sheets of paper on their desk as they write. Sometimes I stop and unball one of the papers. Bill's had a date, then his full name scrawled in the upper left-hand corner, then I remember my mother's, and that was it. A whole white page with blue lines wasted. I looked down at his notebook at the page he was working on. Date and name in the upper left-hand corner, then I remember my mother's hat. Nothing different but the word hat. The crumpled paper was his hesitation. My guess is, if I hadn't walked by and bent low and whispered in his ear, keep going, you're doing fine, don't cross out, don't think. Another sheet of paper, the one he was working on, would also be crumpled. So one of the things that she really emphasizes is keep going. You're doing fine. Don't cross out. Don't think. I mean, how awesome is that? I think I'm going to put that on my wall. Keep going. You're doing fine. Don't cross out. Don't think. That's the best writing. You can edit later, but writing is different than editing. We'll go into that another time. So this one's called Wild Mind. This is Wild Mind, Living the Writer's Life. Okay, we're a half hour in. We're only doing a 15-minute writing exercise this time. So let's see. Anne Lamott, Bird by Bird. And it says some instructions on writing in life. Again, can't live without this book. This one I've read at least 2 or 3 times. Anne Lamott is just so cool. So this is you'll see this. You'll see many classrooms will have this. Many writing conferences talk about this. If you look at resources from other great writers, they all turn to Anne Lamott, Bird by Bird. Okay, so that's what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What else do I got in here? Ba, ba, ba. Okay. Tell It Slant by Brenda Miller and Suzanne Paola. So Tell It Slant is really cool. It talks about how you tell the truth but tell it slant, which is a quote from Emily Dickinson. So, because she was trying to explain how her poetry and some of her short pieces aren't 100% fact. Now remember, telling a truth is more powerful sometimes than telling the truth. And I've gone over that a few times in my shows. I'm happy to bring that back. It's a really good thing to get into your head. So when you write, and I'll show you, I'll write something slant today maybe. When you tell it slant, you're not telling it necessarily exactly factually how it happened. You're using your memory and your feelings to tell it how it happened to you, your memory. And so this is a great book to explain it says to delve into this gem of a book is to begin a journey steeped in the literary tradition of turning your life into art. So Tell It Slant, one of my favorites. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Another book that's not on here that is, I don't have a physical copy of it. I actually listened to it, and somehow I never bought a soft cover of it, is Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. And Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert talks about the writing life, and it really goes into some awesome personal journey of her vulnerability on, how did she keep writing even when nothing was showing up for a very long time? And then how did she go back to writing after she had like a #1 bestseller and everyone told her that, her career was over. She already had her bestseller. Ironically, of course, she came back with an even better book called Big Magic. And it's about harnessing that writer within. It's about trusting the spirit. So Big Magic, I don't have a copy of it right now. So let's see what it looks like. Maybe I can show you a picture of it. Boom, boom, boom. I think you all know what Big Magic is, but if you don't, Magic is Liz Gilbert. I thought I had a copy of it, and I didn't, which is kind of weird. Okay, so it looks like this. And ta-da! So there it is, Big Magic. So that book, primo. I actually have it on audio, and when I'm kind of bummed out that I'm not writing enough, or I don't like my writing, or I'm feeling blue, and I don't want to pick up another book and look through it because I'm just sort of like self-deprecating about how much I don't like what I'm doing with my writing. I just listen to it. I love her voice. She dictates her own book. She recites her own book. So Big Magic is number 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is number 7. Okay, so Big Magic is number 7. And here are... Okay, so this is not necessarily a writing book, but it is The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, who I did interview in my writing series on Write Your True Story. So if you'd like to watch that video, you can go to, or that interview, go to writeyourtruestory.com. And Gay Hendricks was awesome. He talks about this book, and The Big Leap really helps you get out of your zone of contentment or your zone of excellence into your zone of genius. And as a writer, you could write a lot of things, I am not in my zone of genius when I'm writing novels. Not even close. I don't like writing novels. I don't want to write a novel. Doesn't appeal to me. I tried kind of a few times in grad school, and I realized that my zone, that's kind of like my zone of contentment. It's not even contentment. It's sort of my zone of, I don't know, what would you call it? My zone of depression, really. I just don't like it. When I'm in my zone of excellence, I feel that I'm writing, personal development, nonfiction, how-to stuff. That's kind of a zone of excellence. But when I'm in my zone of genius, I'm writing poetry. I'm writing true short story. I'm writing true stories about my life, and and I'm relating them. Short pieces are more my thing. So I like essays. I like articles. I like blogs. I like poems. So short form is flash nonfiction. Anything that is shorter. I like to condense words into more of that art of telling a story in a shorter span of time. I think that that's super, super fun. So that would be my zone of genius. But I don't do it all the time because I think I'm supposed to be doing other things. And then I pick this book up. I've read this book probably 20 times, cover to cover. I also own it on audio, and I remind myself by going into this book and reminding myself that in order to really thrive in life, in order to really feel like you're living the life that you love, in order to really be the person that you're meant to be, you want to read The Big Leap, and you want to get into that zone of genius. So, let's see. My math is off today. We've got 6. We've got 7. This is number 8. Number 9. Hold on. I have a new one. So I think you're gonna really like this. So I feel that as a writer, it's really important for us to trust our intuition. I have some amazing, amazing experiences now that I know what intuition is. I know how to trust my gut. I know how to trust my feelings. And I, use my mind to guide, but I don't lead with my mind. Native American warriors and, Zen masters will tell you the mind, the left part of the brain, the mind is only there as a guide. It analyzes. It can believe anything. It can argue for or against anything. That's the purpose of the mind, to just kind of like analyze and look at different things. But the leader, the place that you lead from is your heart and your stomach. Okay? In 1983, they reclassified the heart as a gland and not a muscle. And in 1995, they discovered neurotransmitters in the lining of the stomach. So we actually have a stomach brain, and we actually have neurotransmitters in the lining of the heart. They also found out that that information is faster. We get more information faster from the feelings in our chest and our stomach than we do from our mind. So unfortunately, Western world decided that somehow our brains were superior. And the brain processes some of this information, but the truth is that the brain actually cannot process the information coming from the gut and the information coming from the heart in terms of language, in terms of even images. It's a feeling. And if you can lead with those feelings, I'm telling you, you'll be in the flow and life will work out. So, my 10th book? God, I'm so bad at this. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9. Number 9. It's because Big Magic isn't here. I keep forgetting about that one. The 3 Only Things. Tapping the Power of Dreams, Coincidence, and Imagination by Robert Moss, who is an expert in dream interpretation. And he literally teaches you in this book how to use your unconscious mind to tap into the dreams that are giving you information. He teaches you synchronicity or coincidence. Coincidence means 2 things coincide. Synchronicity means they're actually happening at the same time. And the proper word for when you think of someone and the phone rings is actually coincidence. Unfortunately, we've kind of messed that word up to think that coincidence isn't valid. But when things coincide at the right time, we've decided to call it synchronicity, which is fine. So it basically is dream, synchronicity, and imagination, but he calls it coincidence, and he explains why. So how do you use the imagination? How do you use synchronicity? And he talks a lot about the intuition in here. And I find that when I learn to trust that part of myself, my writing is 10 times better. So I think that's 9 now, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Big Magic is 9. And my new favorite, you're going to make fun of me. It's a new book that came out. When did this book come out? I'm kind of curious, actually, because I don't know. It must be just like this year. And why is there no... Dun, 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 dun. I know. I'm like not showing it to you until I figure this out. How is there no copyright on this book? It doesn't make any sense. It must have come out like... As far as I know, it came out this year. So, if it came out last year, don't get angry. Oh no, 2015. So, 3 years ago. This book is a brand new book that I discovered. It's called Dare, The New Way to End Anxiety and Stop Panic Attacks. If there's one thing that I realized that was getting in the way of my writing consistently, was my anxiety. And that anxiety was happening from my internal dialogue. That anxiety was happening because I didn't feel like I was good enough. Man, I've had a lifetime of dealing with anxiety from some, difficulty in my childhood, a lot of difficulty in my childhood, some trauma. And so the anxiety was just a part of who I am. My mother has it too. So she's reading the book too, which has been really cool that my mom's reading this book as well. And I kid you not, ever since I read this book like a week and a half ago, I have not had anxiety. It's weird. I mean, I've had some anxiety, but the exercises and the way to deal with the anxiety is just phenomenal because it doesn't have much life anymore. So I've now decided to keep this book on my desk so that I can, refer back to it anytime I'm feeling a little stressed, or if I feel that anxiety and I'm sitting at the desk to write. This is the one, Dare. And he has a Facebook group. He has a whole community of people. He has a really amazing team of wraparound support for people to get off the meds. I mean, I was on benzos for like 7 years for anxiety, and I went off of them a couple years ago, and it was just so hard to get off them. And I know that a lot of people, they numb out from their anxiety when it comes to alcohol or from benzos, or they take antidepressants. Some antidepressants work with anxiety. I tried that too. But the truth is you don't need any of that. It's really, really doable to rid your life of anxiety on your own. And he is, as far as I'm concerned, this guy is a saint because he had it. He was suffering. And when he discovered the tricks, now he works with doctors, the military. He works with celebrities, public speakers. He really, and ordinary people, to use this method to help them really just, eliminate anxiety from your life and panic attacks. So that's number 10. All right. So what are we going to do today? We've got 15 minutes. So I'm going to do a short writing prompt today for everybody. And the prompt today is going to be this. We're going to pick a random page, or you're going to pick a random page from one of your favorite writing books. So if you don't have a favorite writing book and you just have a book somewhere around, you can use that. It doesn't have to be a favorite writing book. But I'm going to pick one of these suckers, and I'm going to go to the first paragraph from the random page that I open, and I'm going to use the info to write about how it applies. Well, let me write this properly. Pick a random page from one of your favorite writing books, go to the first paragraph, and use the info to write about how it applies to your life. And look at this. Janice says, I have 6 out of the 10 books. Woohoo! Janice, we are on the same page, literally. And I'll list them all so you can try out, see if the library has the other ones if you're interested. And Janice, if you have any other suggestions on books that I have not covered that you like, please let me know and list it in the comments because, sharing is caring, and let's just share the heck out of it. Let's figure this out together. I just love going to a writing book when I'm feeling down and out about my writing. So the more the merrier. Oh, you know, I used to have Stephen King's on writing. Do you have that, Janice? Do you have Stephen King's book? Because I gave it away like an idiot. And so now I don't have it. But I don't really remember it. I only read it once. And as you know, reading a book once, as far as I'm concerned, it does not mean integration. So it might do me some good to go back and reread that sometime. Okay, so 15 minutes. It's 12:45. Random book. I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to pick a book. I'm a little nervous about it. Oh, Bird by Bird. So I picked this book. Okay, random page. I'm going to be honest, too. I'm not going to make it up. I'm going to really, do this. Not that I ever make it up, but, in situations like this, I'd be like, I don't like it. I'm going to do something else. Okay. First paragraph. I'm currently reading It's Never Too Late to Begin Again. Oh, I love Julia Cameron. Yeah, that's a great one. She's still alive? I don't know why I thought that she died. I'm going to have to get that one. Thanks. Thanks, Janice. Do you like it? Is it working for you? Let me know. Okay, so here we go. Bird by Bird, first paragraph. What am I doing? And then I'm going to use it to see how it applies to my life. I went through a very bad bout of jealousy last year when someone with whom I am, or rather was, friendly, did extremely well. It felt like every few days she'd have more good news about how well her book was doing until it seemed that she was going to be set for life. It threw me for a loop. I'm a better writer than she is. A lot of my writing friends do very well, hugely well, and I'm not jealous of them. I do know why that is, but it's true. But when it happened for her, I would sit listening to her discuss her latest successes over the phone, praying I could get off the line before I started barking. I was literally oozing unhappiness, like a chump. Okay. I gotta write what? 15 minutes on how that might apply to my life. Okay, here we go. 15 minutes about how that paragraph applies to my life. I don't have my timer with me, but I will be looking up and letting you know. Okay. We have 3 minutes left for those of us still up there. I should probably reread it. So, wrapping up, it's 1 o'clock. The prompt. So I told you about my 10 favorite books. I said to pick a random page from one of your favorite writing books, go to the first paragraph, and use the info to write about how it applies to your life. 15 minutes of writing only. So I picked a page where Anne Lamott in Bird by Bird was very honest about how she was jealous about a friend of hers who wrote a book, and she wasn't, in Anne Lamott's terms, she wasn't as good as a writer as Anne, and yet her book went to bestseller, and Anne was just feeling jealous, and she was feeling this icky feeling about her, and she had to actually work through that into a place of forgiveness and realize that it's, that was just such a weird thing for her to feel, given that she's a teacher and she's a motivator and she's inspirational. So I took that prompt and I wrote this. 3 years ago, a young 27-year-old girl, Shireen, was living on welfare with her mother in California and got a credit card with a $15,000 limit. We met when we both joined the same business coaching program. She wanted to start a business helping artists and creatives create art. She had no experience in coaching or business, but was all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed about the journey. I, on the other hand, was going through a terrible breakup, and I was burned out from a couple of years of hard years and wanted to rebuild my business, but I was depressed, and so I needed help and support. I wound up only doing 3 months of the year-long program and took a couple of years to rest instead in order to get my mental and physical health back. I also broke up with the bad boyfriend and was nursing a broken heart. So 3 years later, now, I found out she broke 6 figures in sales. I often wonder how much further I'd have gotten had I stayed in the program, but I know that I needed to rest. Needless to say, I'm not very proud of this, but I've been rather annoyed at her, and not because of her success, but because when I reach out to her to chat or to ask a few questions about her program, she's either very curt with me or ignores me. My memory of her was that she was a little bit of a snobby young lady, and although I had hoped to overlook that part, I had hoped to overlook that part since I saw her beauty and I do admire her spirit and drive. Now, here I am, doing well again. I'm in that coaching program for a full year this time, and I'm rebuilding my life and business. And sometimes I still get a bit jealous. I think of her relaxing on a tropical beach somewhere and bringing in the big dough. But I've also heard that although she's doing well, she also has the stress that comes with being young and trying to organize and manage a business. I know that she must go through bouts of doubt and fear just like the rest of us. When I see her pop up on my Facebook feed, I force myself to take a moment and celebrate her success and forgive myself for feeling jealous. And someday, I hope to see her at one of our coaching get-togethers so I can personally tell her how proud of her I am. So that was a really good writing prompt. So, writing can be so healing and it can bring up so much great stuff. Okay, so that's Write With Me for today. We're over time, 1:04. I gotta go. I can't wait to see you next week. Mwah. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, and don't forget to keep writing. It is National Poetry Month, and I will be reading some more poetry later this week. Bye!